In this tutorial in CyberLink PowerDirector, we're going to look at two methods where you can create a fire inside of a fireplace. This comes as a request of one of my subscribers. If you have ideas for tutorials, please pass them along to me. It's a great way for me to be able to generate some things that you find useful. So we're looking at two methods. Now let's look at our base clip here. If I play this, you're going to see that we have a little bit of panning going on. Now that will create an issue. We'll show you how to deal with that in a moment. So let's go back to the first frame, and we want to put fire in here. Method number one is you use another video of logs on fire. Now I have a video here I'm going to use, but what I want to do is I want to use a precut. So I already made a precut of it. The only thing I did was change the length to exactly match my prime video here. So I am going to take this and move it down and put it on track number 2. Now I need to edit it. Obviously it's way too big, so I'll click on the edit button. I want to be on the video area, and then we're going to change the size. Now I look at the dimensions in the fireplace, and I want the dimensions of the fire here, the logs, to be about the same proportionally. Doesn't have to be exact, but something close. You don't want something way too big or way too small. And I think that's a little too big. I'm going to make it smaller yet. Just tone it down a little bit in size. Let's do something like that. Now when I place it in the fireplace, I find it's too big. How do I solve that problem? I do it by using a tool at the top on the left called Mask. I'll click on Mask, and we're going to mask it so we only see part of that video. I'll click on the rectangular option, and it will give me a square box on top of my video. Then all I need to do is use the mouse to change the size and shape of my mask to be exactly what I want. If I want to change the position more carefully, I can use the up and down and left and right arrow keys on the keyboard to be a little more precise. That looks pretty good. I'll click back on the video option, and when we're on the first frame, let's play it. It looks good. It looks like it works. Now, you notice as the camera pans, I have a problem. We'll solve that in a moment. Let's go back to the first frame again. And one thing I want to do is I think the fire is a little bit too intense for the image here. I want to soften it so it's not the focus of my video. So I'm going to take the opacity, fade, and blend control on the fire and just tone it down a little bit by changing the opacity. So that might be something you want to do. Now, what do I do about having it move with the camera? What I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe. So I click on the Advanced button, lower right corner of the control panel. And then at the very bottom, I have a position. I want to make sure that my playhead's on the left side. I'll click the diamond by the position value. That will set a little red position keyframe. I'm going to go to the end, and I'll drag my playhead over to the very end. And when I'm at the end, I'm going to change the position. I can do this just simply by dragging. And again, I can use the up and down, left and right arrow keys to adjust just the way I want it to be. That looks pretty good. And click on OK. And now when I go to the beginning and play, the camera moves and the fire stays in the firebox. So that's method number one. This is my preferred method. Let me show you another way to do it if you don't want to do this method. I'll click on the delete. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use some overlays. I'm going to click on the overlay room, and I need to search. Now if I search my default overlays, I'll type in fire, and I have a whole bunch, some which are useful and some which are not. Now if I look for some that might work, I'm going to narrow it down to some in this area here. If I want to see only these, if I hover over them, it gives me the name, Fire and Sparks. I think I want to just search now on Fire and Sparks, and now that's all I see. So some of these, well, I see them first at least. So some of these will work. Now this one here looks like it has potential, so I'll take and drag that down and put it on track 2, and we'll increase the duration to match our video. And what we want to do is change the size of it and the location of it. And there's one option. Now you could call it done there, except we're going to have to keyframe it. I'm going to click on the Advanced button, and we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll move our playhead to the beginning, and we'll set a position value. I have to make sure I have it about where I want, and then we move our playhead to the end, and we change our position and click on OK. So this will allow the fire to stay right where I want it to be as the camera moves. Now you can do more than that. I'm going to layer this. And in order to layer this, I'll give myself some more real estate here. And I'll take this and I'll move it down to a higher numbered track. I could use 4 or 5. If you want a new track, you just drop it and it will create a new track in the new interface. Now it's on number 6. So when we play this, we're going to see the fire. But I want more than that. Say I want some sparks as stuff goes up the chimney. I can click on some of these options here. There's sparks. That's not the right one. That one won't work. This one won't work. Ah, this one works. This looks like fire going up a chimney. I'm going to take this, and I want it probably, if I'm going to layer this, I want this as close to the back as possible. So I'll take this one and put it on track number 2. And again, we'll lengthen it to match our video. And we have to, again, make sure we're at the first frame. And with it there, we're going to change look and feel, the size and location of this one. Don't want the sparks coming out of the firebox. Now you notice I just had a problem. It's so easy to click on the wrong track when you're using multiple effects. So what I'm going to do temporarily is I'm going to turn off my track number 6. There. Now I'll turn it back on. Now, one thing I need to do is I need to keyframe my fire and sparks as well. My temptation is simply to take the keyframe properties of track number 6 and copy and paste them into track number 2. But if I do that, I'm going to run into an issue. The issue is the sparks are not necessarily going to be in the same place horizontally and vertically as track 6. So you have to do these individually. Let's look at even more. I like this fire here. I'll put that on track number 3. And now what I'm going to do is take number 2 and temporarily turn that off, and number 6 and temporarily turn that off, so I only click on this one. And we'll take it and we'll make it smaller, and we'll layer it back here, and I have that one. Now here's something else you can do. You could take that same thing, put it on another track, and lengthen it again, only this time, besides making it the right kind of size, I'm going to flip it. I have to make sure I'm at frame number 1. Okay. And I can take that, I can click on my edit, and I'll do flip horizontal. And there it's different. So you could layer as many of these as you possibly wanted. And again, because of the panning, you're going to have to keyframe each of them from the first frame to the last frame. I'll pause while I do that. I have all 4 tracks modified, and when we play, we're going to see that we have the multiple effects, making it look more like real fire. The other thing I would do is I would probably turn the opacity down a little bit to make it a little more subtle, but that's the second method that you can use when you're working with PowerDirector to create a fire in a fireplace.